Hello, it's Keith Ayers here from Intégro. Welcome to our Catalyst Q&A session, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to start off by taking you on a walk through the Catalyst platform, and because I know that there are some people who are on this call who are actually quite familiar with Catalyst and have been using it, and you're here to find out what's new, and obviously we will be covering what's new. But we also have some people who are not overly familiar with Catalyst. So I want to get just a quick overview of what we've got, what we've had for some time, and then we'll have a look at what's new. And there's some pretty exciting new stuff in Catalyst, okay? So before I start on walking you through it, just to clarify, Catalyst is a disc profile. And for someone to get a profile in Catalyst, they must complete an assessment. They're using the base questions that measure their disc style, and there are some additional questions as well. If you've already done a disc profile, whether that be workplace management or Agile EQ, you can actually upgrade that profile to a Catalyst profile at no charge, provided you use the existing profile and transfer the data from that profile, the disc questions, over into the Catalyst profile. And one of our team here can help you if you're not sure how to do that. Okay, but don't start from scratch unless you want to pay the 15 credits it takes to produce a workplace profile. Okay, so the profiles currently on Catalyst are the workplace profile, which is the standard one that pretty much everybody uses. It's the baseline, which is suitable for pretty much everyone in the organization to take. We also have the management profile, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Quick overview for those not familiar with that. And then we also have Agile EQ. The Everything Disc Agile EQ profile is a profile for helping people increase their emotional intelligence. Okay, and it's linked to disc obviously because it's an Everything Disc profile. So all three of those are in Catalyst, and I'm going to just walk you through each of those so that you're familiar with that. All right, so let's dive into disc. I might just add here that this is the workplace profile. When you take the assessment, whether you're upgrading from workplace or you've just taken it from scratch, when you've completed answering the questions, and if you're upgrading, you'll be getting some additional questions. Once you've completed that and you hit submit, you're going to come to this screen. This is the home page for my Catalyst profile on Workplace. Okay, Workplace profile on Catalyst would be a better way of saying that, wouldn't it? Okay, and it says straight away that you have an SI style. Now that's something else that's new with Catalyst, is that when someone completes the questions and they hit submit, and they come to this screen, they automatically get to see their profile. You can't hold back the profile in Catalyst, all right? So as soon as people have answered the questionnaire, they can see their profile. Now, a lot of people think that that's not the way to go. We used to recommend that you don't give people their profile, that is, hand out their booklet, PDF file, until you're ready to in the training session. But with so many people doing training online now, it's almost impossible to hold it back until you're ready to show it to them when people are working remotely. And in actual fact, what we found is it's been a big plus for people to see their profile before they come into the training session, because they get excited about it and they come in with a whole lot of questions and they're really ready to learn. So if you have questions about that, give us a call. Okay, so I'm going to dive into learn about your style, all right, which is the first part. And all of this is straight out of the workplace profile. So the first part is a brief overview of the disc model and the 4 primary styles, all right? And then it goes into your map, which is what you can see to the right there. And my dot is represented by a little photo of me where I sit in the disc map. Okay, and you'll see in the second paragraph, because I fall to the edge of the circle, I'm strongly inclined towards my SI style. So inclination comes in very early here in this profile. Now your Next part is your SI story. If you're familiar with the workplace profile, that would be page 4, which was called your dot tells a story. And so this is a narrative report, and this is the thing that's personalized most to me based on my style. And obviously, when you're working with a group, you would get them to go through and personalize this and tick the things they agree with, cross on things they disagree with, and question mark on anything they're not sure, underline things that are really most accurate, etc. So all of the same things we do in a training session at the moment with a paper report, we can do in Catalyst. The next thing is the cornerstone principles. All right. Now, you might recall, if you're familiar with the profiles, that there's usually about 5 cornerstone principles. And what Wiley decided that since people are going to be exploring this before perhaps they get there to the session, they're just focusing on the 2 most important cornerstone principles. All styles and priorities are equally valuable, and everyone's a blend of all 4. And there's more to you than your DISC profile. Okay, your style is influenced by other factors. Okay, so the other thing that's in this section here is the podcast. All right, and if you're not familiar with the podcast, it was first released in the myeverythingdisc.com application, but now it's in your own profile right from the get-go, and you can download it and listen to it from your desktop or tablet. When you can also download a transcript so you can read it if some people would prefer to do that. Okay, so you can see it's 54 and a bit minutes. So it's quite in-depth, and it's Dr. Mark Scullard, the Director of Research, who's narrating that. And there's a podcast for each of the 12 styles that you can see in the disc map to the right there. Okay, so a lot of additional valuable information there. Okay, so down here, it's telling me there's more to explore. And this is the rest of the workplace profile here. What drives you is really what your priorities are and what are your motivators and stressors. And so, again, this is stuff that's in the existing workplace profile, but now it's online. And what's stressful for me, okay? And then we've got the strategies for increasing effectiveness here. Now, in the current workplace profile PDF file, these 3 strategies for increasing your effectiveness are on page 16. So they're sort of been brought forward in the application here. That's because of the new curriculum that's been built around this. Okay. And so I'm going to dive into just quickly, you and other styles. This is also from the workplace profile, understanding each of the other styles. All right, and so if you want to understand a D style better, then you would go in here. To you, they may seem blunt, forceful, demanding, and dominant, etc. And then it goes into the priorities of the D style and where they are in relation to me. Okay, now if I go down a bit further, I'll see some little videos. So if I want to learn a bit more about the D style, I can click on one of these videos and watch it. So there's lots of stuff for participants to play around with in here that will get them more engaged in understanding their profile and understanding other people. All right. Now, if I go down a little bit further, it says people you may know in the D region, and some of you will know Alicia Lowe, who's our general manager. She's the only D style in our organization, as I'll show you when we get to the disc map of our group. Okay, and I can click on this and get a lot of information about how Alicia and I compare. All right, it's a comparison report. It's not an actual copy of Alicia's profile. Okay, so again, that's something that's absolutely new with Catalyst. Okay, and I can dig deeper with building better relationships with the D style, and that's the further section of the workplace profile application. So building better relationships with each of the D, I, S, and C styles. Okay, and again, it's going through how I can adapt to relate better to the D style when I want to connect with them, when problems need to be solved, or when things get tense. Okay, and again, people I may know in the D region, and of course Alicia comes up again. She's the only person in Intégro who has that D style. All right, so so that's the basic workplace profile, and additional things like little videos and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I want to go into your colleagues now, and you can see here we've got, if I can scroll through here, we've got show you, this is the Intégro team. This is something that's unique to Catalyst, right? That when you take your Catalyst profile, you have to put in a company name. So all of these people have in their profile the name Intégro Learning Company. And so they all appear in here. Now, there's a few people in here that do not actually work for Intégro, but they've wanted to take the workplace profile on Catalyst and get a feel for the Your Colleague section, but they don't have anyone else in their company. And so we've actually put them into Intégro Learning Company just so they can see it as a trial, and then we'll take them out eventually. All right. So, but all of those with a picture and are members of the Intégro team. Okay. Now, I just want to let's explore the Your Colleague section, and to do that, I'm going to choose Kelly. And a lot of you know Kelly, speak to Kelly regularly. She's also my wife. And the reason I'm showing you this one is because we actually are both S-style. And I want to show you how helpful it is, even if you are similar, to have this information. All right. Now, we don't see Kelly's profile. What we see is this little bit of information about Kelly. And some people question the idea of everybody else being able to see them. All right. But when you look at this information, Kelly cares about getting along, having flexibility, being dependable. Pull Kelly in when you need someone who has these strengths. Kelly may be stressed by these things, so don't do that. Why would anyone not want other people to know that about them? Why would you not want people to know what you care about, what your strengths are, and what might stress you? All right, so there is a privacy option here. People can switch this off so other people can't see them. If they do that, they won't see other people either. They'll be basically grayed out of this whole Your Colleague section. All right. The thing is that people can see that you're there, but they've also can see that you've opted out of sharing your information. Okay. So if I scroll down a little bit further, we'll see our maps together. And so you can see our dots are really quite close together. We're both in the S quadrant. I'm SI, Kelly's SC. We both have an additional priority. And it's the additional priorities that make us really more different. So if you look at similarities and differences, we've got a few similarities, of course, but we've actually got more differences than similarities. All right. And then when we look at the comparison, the continua, there are 8 continua that are standard in Catalyst. Everybody gets all 8. And when you go into look at the comparison between yourself and one of your work colleagues, it shows where both of you are on each of those continua. All right. So you can see that Kelly's more strong-willed than I am, although not super strong-willed. Kelly's more private, I'm more outgoing, etc. We're both focused on feelings, both more tactful. That can be a bit of a trick sometimes, you know, when we're having a conversation and we're both trying to be tactful with each other and just spitting it out and being more frank. All right. We both tend to be unstructured. And this is an interesting one, focused on possibilities and focused on realities. Right. I find it frustrating sometimes when I've got to remind myself that Kelly doesn't see the possibilities that I see. I'm a very optimistic sort of guy. All right. And then we're opposite on skeptical and accepting, and on fast-paced, steady-paced. So where this comes in is in the application of how do I work with this person. All right. So let's say I want to collaborate with Kelly on a project. We're working on a project together. We're both very unstructured, but I'm fast-paced and Kelly is steady-paced. In the benefits there, we both tend to be pretty flexible because we're unstructured. Kelly pays close attention to how much time it needs to do things right because of her steady pace. I'm fast-paced and I may get frustrated that things aren't moving fast enough. So it gives me some tips on what I need to do to be more effective at collaborating with Kelly and working on this project. Another interesting one is if we look at buy-in, I need to get Kelly's buy-in for something. Now I've got a real challenge because I'm very accepting, Kelly's more skeptical. I'm focused on possibilities, Kelly's focused on realities. We're completely opposite on the 2 continua that contribute to getting her buy-in. Okay, so I've got to be ready with facts and evidence because I know Kelly's going to have questions, and I need to show Kelly that I have considered the practical implications of my idea, which means I better think about the practical implications before I even talk to her. Okay, all right, so that's the Your Colleague section. I'm just going to show you now, it's a real good transition now to go into the groups. This is new. We've only had groups for 2 or 3 months now, but we've only just had the continua added to the group function. So here is our Intégro team. There are 8 of us, all right? What leaps out at you straight away is that 6 out of 8 are in the S quadrant, all right? And we didn't deliberately hire that way. We attract people who love giving support, because really that's Integro's role. We're here to support all of our users of everything DISC and 5 behaviors in Australia. And so it's a big part of what we do. You'll notice Alicia is sort of out there on her own in the D quadrant. And Pam, our training coordinator, has a bit more I, which is really interesting. Now, when we look at the group inside, this is the new bit that I'm really excited about. Not just the pie chart there, because that shows what percentage we've got in each style, which is no surprise. But then when we come down, we can now see each of the 8 continua and where everyone on the team sits. All right. And I'm going to show you some interesting things. It's no surprise that Alicia is really strong-willed and is the only one sitting out there, although Kelly and Mel Chapman are sort of somewhat strong-willed, and I'm sort of in the middle there. But we've got a number of people who are quite accommodating. Private outgoing, we've got a whole bunch of outgoing people, and some people who are moderately private. Focused on feelings, focused on logic. We've got a lot more people focused on feelings than logic. Okay, just as well we've got Alicia, isn't it? Okay, and again, no surprise here in terms of tactful, frank. And I know that sometimes that frustrates Alicia, and when she wants people to be more straightforward and say what they really think. We're getting better at that, and we're aware of it. And obviously having a tool like this really helps us be aware. But have a look at this. All right. Now, Pam is an I style, if you recall, in the DISC map. And she's the only one on the team that is structured. Everyone else is moderately to highly unstructured. Okay. And Kelly and I, the owners of the business, are the most unstructured. So obviously we need more structure and help from other people. Okay. So, so these are really useful. And if we wanted to dig down a little bit more, you know, we can look at how each person sits someone on the scale as somewhat unstructured versus very unstructured and so on. Okay, the value of this, all right, is, and we could use this structured, unstructured I've just been talking about as an example of an activity we could do in a team meeting. All right, so we could bring up this on the screen and say, well, let's look at this, and we're going to have a little breakout discussion about what impact does where we sit on this continuum have on the way we operate together. Come up with some examples of when you've realized that you need to be more structured or need to be less structured. Okay, so you can actually do this for each of the continua and have quite a valuable little conversation with your team about the impact of where people in the team sit on each of these continua, and how that affects the way the team operates, and what you've learned as a team to work together more effectively, and how you need to adapt to do that. Okay, so that's the group continua. Okay, so just before we leave this group area, let me come back to the group map here for a moment, and I'll just, something I didn't mention when we were coming in here. Once you can see the group, and say you want to learn a little bit more about Mel, you can click on more info, and it takes you straight into your colleagues section and the comparison between myself and Mel. Okay, so you can get to this your colleague section from the group's list of team members. Just before we leave the groups function, let me show you how to create a group, because initially you won't have any. So you just scroll down below the your colleague section, and you can only create a group from people who are within your colleague section. All right, and you'll click on create a group. All right, it'll ask you 2 things. What's the group name? What type of group is it? All right, and we'll give you some options to choose from there. Okay, and what's your role? Am I a manager or other, just another contributor? I could be just a team member. Okay, individual contributor could be what you are there. So anyone can create a group. All right. Now, the other thing that I should mention before we leave this is that at the moment, when you create a group, you're the only one that can see that group in your Catalyst profile. All right. If other people in your team want the same group, they would need to create it themselves. Now, Wiley have realized that that's something that doesn't need to be that way. And in the very near future, and I'm talking within weeks, there will be a function where you can create a group and then share it with the rest of the group so that everybody doesn't have to go in and create their own. Okay, so they're always working on new stuff, which is great. Let me go to the next profile, which is the management profile. To workplace down to management. Okay, now the management profile there's 6 modules in the facilitation for this. There's a couple of modules on the management overview and your management style, and what that's doing is looking at what are the skills that managers need. And Wiley made a decision to focus on one-on-one skills. You can see there in the bold 4 key management areas: directing and delegating, creating a motivational environment, developing talent, and managing up. So there's information in this profile on all 4 of those sections. But there's also introductory videos, understanding yourself, understanding others, etc., which is all, and some core principles and so on. And in your management style section, which is most important, is for the manager to understand their own management style, how they naturally go about managing people. And part of that's going to be their management priority. So this is my management profile. So my disk map looks the same as my workplace graph, and I've got that extra priority on action in here again. So it's talking about what my priorities are, but now talking to me as a manager. What I focus on as a manager, okay? What I enjoy, which is like the motivators in workplace, and what drains me, which is like the stressors for me as a manager because of my style, okay? And so then we can go into the 3 initial management applications and say, we want to motivate one of my employees, okay? So I'll click on motivation. It starts with the environment I create. What's the natural tendency I have to what environment do I naturally tend to create because of my priorities? So it's more likely to be a supportive environment, okay, with enthusiasm and encouragement and so on, okay. But we've also got to look at how that might not work with some people, okay. So how I need to adapt to other styles. So if I want to motivate one of my team, I can just type in a name here, and I'll just select Sue for that. And Sue Rogan is one of our team members, all right? And Sue has an SC style, all right? So it comes up with her because Sue is in the Your Colleague section. So now I can say, well, how do I need to motivate Sue? And it's telling me that she's primary S style, so go into the S style motivation. And it gives me what the motivational needs are, what would demotivate them, how does conflict come in, how to adapt to her, etc. Okay, and other people I may know in the S region, and of course, because we've got a whole lot of S's in Intégro, there's a whole bunch of them. All right, so I could then go in and look at their comparison reports now if I wanted to. Okay, so now someone asked a question. Sue is an SC style, but it only tells me that to look at the S style. Well, it tells me to look there initially, all right? And I can now go on to the C style motivation and see all the same information. And then I look at the 2 combined and say, okay, Sue is an SC, the motivational needs are this from the S style, this from the C style, etc. Okay, so heaps and heaps of information here on how to be more effective as a manager in motivating others. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, and I won't go into all of them now, the 3 primary management skills are direct and delegate, motivate, and develop talent. All right. And so it's giving me information on how to do that with each of my direct reports. If I don't know, let's say, for example, I want to develop the talent of one of my team, and they have not done the DISC profile. That would not happen here at Intégro, of course. But say a manager has someone that's new to the team, they haven't done a DISC profile yet. So if I type their name in here, it's not going to come up. So I can actually guess a colleague style, and I'll say, okay, I think this person is more cautious and reflective, and I think more questioning and skeptical, and that turns out to be a C style, and then it can take me into how do I develop the talent of a C style person. Okay, and so here's the information. How do I recognize their potential? How do I adapt to them, and what they expect, etc. Okay, and so people in my team who may be in that C style. All right, and the third profile in here is the Agile EQ profile. So I'll scroll down. Okay, so what is EQ? Now, what's different about this as an EQ profile is we're not assessing whether someone is high or low on emotional intelligence. It's an assessment based on the DISC profile and research that Wiley have done to identify what are the natural EQ strengths of each of the styles. All right, so you'll see it starts off with the principles. EQ isn't a fixed score. With time and practice, you can enhance it. There are different ways to be emotionally intelligent. Some will come naturally to you, while others may be more of a stretch. And no DISC style is inherently more emotionally intelligent than any other style. Okay, and so there's an introductory video. And then here are the 8 EQ mindsets that are correlated with the DISC styles. Okay, so like in the other profiles where we've got priorities, in this profile we have mindsets. What is the mindset that I go into situations with? The frame of mind, my thinking, etc. And as an SI style, my number one mindset would be empathizing. Okay, and I'm also probably likely good at being receptive and outgoing. So when I go into any situation, that's what I tend to gravitate towards, using empathy, being receptive and outgoing. All right. But what if the situation requires something different? What if I am under pressure or under attack verbally from somebody who's challenging my ideas and so on? All right, am I going to be empathizing of them, or do I need to switch to being more resolute or assured? Okay, self-assured. And so that's where this profile is really, really helpful. Okay, so the difference between workplace and this is workplace, you're looking at your style, the style of the person you want to communicate with, and how to adapt to communicate with that person and build a better relationship with that person. In Agile EQ, it's understanding your natural mindsets, your strengths, and understanding the mindsets that don't come naturally to you, and in what situations you need to learn to adapt to use a different mindset. And the profile and the curriculum around it helps you to do that. All right. So I'll go back to Agile EQ and we'll go into your strength section. Okay. And so you can see here, we've got all the 8 mindsets around the edge, and there's my dot. So empathizing, outgoing, receptive are the 3 strengths. So they're in bold, right? And it talks about what my strengths are, and gives me a fair bit of detail about that. All right. And I may run into trouble if you are overly trusting or open, etc., because I'll be stuck in those mindsets. So what happens when we get into a situation where we've got to get outside of our comfort zone? All right. And there are 5 mindsets that are outside of my comfort zone. All right. And so I'm going to scroll down here and we'll see something come up that's unique to this profile. And that is the effort meters. All right. So here we have a composed mindset, and that's the first one outside of my comfort zone down here on the SC scale. Okay. And why should I use this? Why do it? All right. And there's a little video of someone who's pretty strong at the composed mindset, who's going to talk about that mindset and how it helps them to use that mindset. Okay. And then we can dive deeper into that. Okay, go to the objective mindset. So it's saying I'm around in the pink area, which means I need to use quite a bit of effort to do this. All right, now, where does this come from, the effort meter? Well, when you're answering the questions to take Catalyst, you're answering, you're either answering or transferring in your disc profile questions to determine your disc style. And then you've got to answer some additional questions to get your Catalyst profile. And some of those questions are related to the management profile priorities, and some are related to the Agile EQ mindsets. All right. And it's from those additional mindset questions that the program identifies what your comfort zone is. And I'll show you how that works in a moment. I'll just go down a bit further. And I think I've already activated the resolute mindset here. And I'm still in the pink area here, which means it's going to take me quite a bit of effort to stand my ground in the face of opposition and push through any resistance. Okay, not easy for me. Why do it, and when should I do it? And here's someone giving us an example of that resolute mindset. Okay, then we come down to the self-assured mindset. So now the questions that I answered in relation to these mindsets were things like how comfortable are you doing such and such, and then it gives me a scale to score how comfortable I am. And so on the things that relate to being self-assured, I had more comfort than I do with things like being objective and composed. All right. And so I come up just on the borderline of green and yellow here. And again, why do it, etc. And then the dynamic mindset, the needle should move to the middle of the dark green there, because I actually am pretty good at using the dynamic mindset. And if you recall, I had an extra priority on the action priority on the DI scale in my workplace and management profiles. And I have a reasonably high score on the DI scale in my umbrella graph. So that sort of fits with this dynamic mindset that I find easier to do. Okay. All right. So that's the outside your comfort zone. And then developing your EQ is the third section, which is, okay, I need to pick one of these mindsets. And again, here we've got the comfort zones, and the comfort zone meter is still stuck. But now it's giving me more specific things that I need to do to be better at using that composed mindset and how much effort it's going to take me. All right, so again, the objective mindset and so on. It's going to take me through all of the mindsets and what's going to be easy for me to do, what's going to be more difficult for me to do, etc. Okay, now we got the resolute one working. Okay, can we get the dynamic one working as well on this last one? There we go. All right, as you can see, that's something that comes reasonably easy to me. All right, so that's Agile EQ. And just as a reminder, Agile EQ is a really good extension of work that you've done with people with workplace profile. You've given them some skills in understanding themselves and other people and how to adapt to relate to different people more effectively and build better relationships. With Agile EQ, you can build on top of that. So, okay, now, what are the situations in which you could be more effective? What are the situations in which you struggle or you think back on and say, I wish I could have handled that better? And then when you translate that into Agile EQ mindsets, people can clearly see, oh, I would have been much more effective if I'd been more self-assured there. All right. Or I'd be much more effective if I'd actually listened more, been more receptive and moved into the receptive mindset. So how do I do that and use the information in the profile? Now, in the facilitator kit that comes with this, there are over 20 videos giving examples of people adapting to use different mindsets or people getting stuck in their natural mindset, not being able to move and then being ineffective. So the Agile EQ facilitator materials is really brilliant. And those videos, it's designed as a half-day or 4-hour training program around it to help people understand their strengths, understand where they need to stretch, and then choose one that they want to develop and actually work on a plan for developing that. Okay. So all of that comes in. There's one facilitator kit now called the Everything Disc on Catalyst Facilitator Kit. And it has all the facilitation materials for workplace, management, and Agile EQ. And so 3 facilitator kits in one. The good news is if you already have a facilitator kit, such as workplace or management or Agile EQ, you can actually upgrade that facilitator kit to the Catalyst facilitator kit and get all 3 facilitator kits at no additional cost. All right. So any questions about that, again, contact our team at Intégro, support@integro.com.au. Okay, so the two things that are significantly different here with what we've been doing pre-Catalyst is, and I've put hundreds of people through DISC accreditation, DISC certification over the years, and I've always emphasized, don't let people see their profile until you're ready to give it to them, because it was all face-to-face training. So we could just, when we were ready, we'd hand out the printed PDF file, and then we'd take people through and interpret it and explain it and personalize it and all that kind of stuff. Okay, with Catalyst, we can't do that. They're going to see their profile as soon as they complete it, right? As I said earlier, we've actually found that that's a benefit. We were worried about it, but I'm completely on board with that now. I'm happy for people to see their profile before we get into a session. And I find that there's so much more into it because I've had a chance to look at it. And if there are other people in their organization also doing the profile or have done it in Catalyst, they'll be able to see their colleagues and look at the comparisons as soon as they get into their profile. So once they're in Catalyst, anyone else in their organization who's got a profile on Catalyst is already there in their Your Colleague section. All right. And so that really creates interest. Now, Catalyst, the name is meant to infer that it's a catalyst for culture change. All right. Culture change occurs when people start changing their behavior. And when people start paying more attention to each other and learning more about each other and getting more interested in each other and going into the Your Colleague section and exploring their relationship with different people, you can actually change the culture of an organization by creating better communication and better relationships. All right. So now the other thing is the privacy bit. All right. Now people always ask about that because there are always some people who don't want other people to see them. All right. Now the thing that if anyone says that to me personally, I don't want other people to see my style. My response is always, well, you know what? They can already see it because they can see your behavior. All right. So there's an expression I heard years ago, you are, speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. All right. So people can tell what style you are in terms of DISC language by simply observing your behavior. This is called a hamburger menu, I'm told, right? And so you click on that and it brings up this menu over the left-hand side here. All right. And under account settings, you'll find privacy. Okay. And when we click on privacy, it's all about sharing with colleagues. And to get the most out of everything just on Catalyst, we recommend that you share with colleagues. Okay. And so, but if they don't want to, we can turn it off here. Okay. So, and it's reminding them that turning off share with colleagues means some key features of Catalyst will be unavailable to you. All right. And that means, let me click on save there and I'll go into my colleagues section again, and I'll show you what happened. Okay. So here's my colleagues and there's Kelly. I can see her, but I can't click on it. Nothing happens. All right. And if Kelly goes into the Your Colleague section now, she'll be able to see me, but she won't be able to click on me. So you'll be able to click on anyone else in the team who has not set the privacy to not show. All right. So other members of the team can see who has selected privacy. All right. So it's not like you can keep it a secret. And then if I get down, if I've done that and I want to go and have a look at a comparison with one of my colleagues, I can see a sample, but Also in here, I can share with colleagues. So I can say, oh, okay, I don't want to be private anymore. I want to share. Okay, yes, let's go. All right. And it immediately brings me back into being able to see everybody. I don't have to go back into the privacy setting to set it back in place. Okay. All right. So if someone wants a PDF file of their profile, go back to the hamburger menu. Okay. Download reports. Okay. And if you've only done workplace, you'll only have workplace there. I happen to have all three because I've done all three. And then while I'm on that, before I get to finish this download print business, if you just start with workplace and you've converted your workplace profile and then you subsequently want to add the management profile or Agile EQ, you just need to let your Epic administrator know that you would like to add Agile EQ, say, to your Catalyst profile, and they will go in and select it and release the Agile EQ profile to you. It will cost 10 Epic credits to do that, all right, on top of the 15 that you originally paid for your workplace profile. Same with management. Management is 10 Epic credits if you add it in Catalyst. If you did management or Agile EQ separately in Epic as a separate and generated a PDF file, that would be 25 credits each. So there's a significant saving in using these profiles in Catalyst. Okay, so now I want to produce a report. I can actually click all three if I want to. And when I download that, I'm going to get a 70-page report. All right. But say I just want my Agile EQ profile, and I just print Agile EQ or download, and then I can print it as a booklet. Okay. So that functionality is still there. Okay. No more questions. So thanks for joining me today. And if you have any questions that we haven't answered, please come visit us at Intégro on 1-800-222-902 or support@integro.com.au. Thank you.